Good afternoon, students of Composition 3. We're only a day early today, but tomorrow is a holiday, so another opportunity to get caught up. Your stuff is due tomorrow. The assignments I asked you to complete, the homework from the textbook, and the writing assignments about the topic sentences you developed from your homework. So please hand those in tomorrow. It is a holiday, it's Hangul Day, so do whatever you want to enjoy your holiday, but this will count as this week's cyber lecture, so don't forget that we're sort of on the clock even though there's a holiday tomorrow. I actually wasn't sure that there was a holiday tomorrow until earlier this morning. In terms of my microphone and my voice, I'm not sure. I'm trying not to talk too loudly. I do have a bit of a scratch in my voice, but the microphone has been too loud or too soft a couple times, so hopefully this time is just right. But I apologize if it's not the right volume. You may have to adjust your device a little bit. So we've been working through the textbook, and we're on page 19. And we were talking about means of support last time, making choices about how you want to prove something, how you want to support your argument in a paragraph. Now we're going to move on to how to do a concluding sentence. And my basic advice to you is that you must have one. One that matches your topic sentence, one that links clearly what you're talking throughout the paragraph and brings you back to your original statement. It doesn't necessarily have to repeat it. It shouldn't repeat it exactly, but it should be familiar to the reader. They should be like, oh yeah, this point, you really drove this point home. I remember what you said at the beginning, and now I agree with you because of the support you've laid out. So the easiest thing to do is just to sort of reword or restructure the statement you made at the beginning. But there are other possibilities as long as they're closely related to the argument. So maybe the purpose of your argument is to say that more people should know about this. So you take your argument and then you say, this is why it's important for everybody to know. Or maybe what your object is to criticize something. So maybe that's what you want to say in your concluding sentence too, is that this information, this argument that I've made should be directed towards this purpose, right? This is how it's going to be used. That's almost like an application there. It's like I've made an argument, I've shown you how it works. Now you can agree with me and you can use it, right? There's all these kind of possibilities as long as the core idea, the main idea, the argument, and the claim that you present at the beginning is evident in the last sentence. And that's just an easy way to signal that you're done. And it gives a sense of, resolution and completeness to the reader so that they know if there's more that they want to know that's been left out, that it's not coming. And if they have more questions that go beyond what you wrote, it's question time. It's time to respond to it. So that's just the neat way and the formal way that you complete any piece of writing, is by coming back to your original point. All right, so that's what it says in the paragraph here. Concluding sentences. This is on page 19. How to end a paragraph. The final sentence of a paragraph is called the concluding sentence. It sums up the main points or restates the main idea in a different way. A sentence that sums up the paragraph reminds the reader of what the writer's main idea and supporting points were. A sentence that restates the main idea should give the same information in a slightly different way, perhaps by using different words or by using a different word order. A concluding sentence should not introduce a new point. Now, I already just mentioned there are other strategies or techniques than just restating or summarizing, but those are the easiest ones. the main thing you have to worry about is don't talk about something else. Don't start a new argument or add some new information that was not included within the body of the paragraph, because then you would be continuing and it's not done. So this is the point when you're signaling that you're finished. So that's how you signal you're finished. The argument is the same as at the beginning. This is why it's important. This is another way of putting it, or this is how you can imply it. This is how you can apply it, or this is how this information would be applicable, or why I'm criticizing it. So any of those techniques are fine, but you can keep it simple, especially on the exam. You don't want to spend too much time writing a really interesting concluding sentence. Just come back to what your original argument was, write a new little bit more, add a little bit of variety. Don't repeat yourself exactly at the end, and then your structure will be perfect. For the questions that follow here, it says work with a partner, but you'll have to do this alone, okay? So this section here, bottom of 19 and 20, and I know you're just finishing up homework and you have a holiday and stuff, but this is important stuff, so I'm going to ask you to do this too. For next week, I would like you to do page 19 and 20, where they give you sample paragraphs, and you read the paragraphs. You can read them out loud. That's always helpful, even if you're by yourself. But you can just read them over. You have to decide what type of support is used, detail, explanation, or example, and then tell me why you chose that type. Answer the question, is there a concluding sentence? That would be just a circling of yes or no. If there's no concluding sentence, you need to write one. Okay, so that's your practice. Now, when you're looking at these paragraphs, the reason I say it's important and you need to do this and remember it for the exam is because one section of the exam is called paragraph analysis, and that's what we're doing here. We're looking at pieces of writing, and we're looking at the parts, and we're reading it and deciding whether the communication of the ideas and the organization is effective, and what makes it weak or strong. I probably will say bad or good or terrible at some point, but we try not to judge that way because there is a spectrum. There's not just this 0 and 100 kind of black and white scale when it comes to writing, but there's certainly stronger and better writing that's out there that has, is more effective at communicating and fits the criteria that most people are looking for. And then there are pieces of writing that have good points and bad points, but some critical weakness makes them less effective. And that can have some pretty negative effects. Sometimes that can end up with a contradiction. So you're actually arguing with yourself and you're saying exactly the wrong thing. This happens to me sometimes when I'm speaking Korean because my grammar's not that good, and I might send a message or say something and I actually, say it's negative when it should be positive, or use the connection between two ideas is additive and it should be subtractive. And these things happen with ideas too. So when you're writing a paragraph and you're writing along and you've got ideas flowing and you're putting the words together and you end up not organizing your points and connecting them carefully together, you might end up saying something that contradicts another sentence. And these two things can't exist together because they're opposites and they cancel each other out, or the one rule, one of the sentences breaks a rule that you've made in another sentence. So these are things you have to look out for. Right now, all I'm asking you to do is just focus on the type of support, but I do want you to make a judgment as well. I want you to look at the paragraph and I want you to say it's a strong paragraph or it's a weak paragraph, and I want you to tell me why. So what we're doing here so far, we're 6 weeks in, is I've been telling you all these things. You need this, you need that, you can't do this, you can't do that, right? So you probably should be accumulating all these things. This is how you judge academic writing. So you have to have a paragraph. Those sentences have to be coherent, concise, and clear, right? That's the guidelines I set at the beginning. But more specifically, what does that mean? Well, are there enough sentences? Is there a topic sentence? Does the topic sentence have any sort of main idea or claim? Do the supporting sentences connect to each other? Do they go off topic? Do they repeat? When you get to the concluding sentence, is it saying something new? Is there no concluding sentence? Or is the concluding sentence just continuing the argument in the support without giving us a signal that it's over? So you can have different scenarios. A good concluding sentence, a bad one, or one that's not there. Three possibilities. So you have to look for all these things. It's almost like checking all the boxes. So, and to be honest, this is the first step to judging whether you do your assignments well, is I look at all these things first. I look at the length of the paragraph. Okay, it's long enough. Looks like there's enough content. Okay, that's a good point. Does it have a title? Is it on the right topic? Yes, yes. Then go to the next thing. Start reading. Topic sentence, check. Supporting sentences following, connected to each other, check, check. Nothing repeating, check, right? I go through the whole thing. Concluding sentences there, right? All the structure is there. Then you have the basic conditions to get an A. Then I have to judge the logic, the quality of your argument, the relationship between the support and your argument, the organization itself, your grammar, your vocabulary, and so on. But the basic criteria are the ones that we're talking about in the book. So all of you should be able to get, the framework of a paragraph down. Because if you don't, when we do the essay, which is worth a lot of your grade, you're just going to get a lower grade just by not following the basic rules that we've been following. So this is week 6. Add it to the list of things that make good paragraphs. And analyzing other paragraphs, whether they're good or bad, is a learning process for you. You can, of course, just write terrible paragraphs over and over again until you get better, but that'll take longer than listening to instructions from your professor. I like to learn by doing as well, but if you take my advice, the process will be faster. Page 21 makes a good point. You don't have to do this page for homework. It's just a very good example of when you sit down and write, often what you're doing is just free writing. I give you a topic, you think about it, you say, okay, this is what I'm going to write about, and then you write. And you don't organize things very much. If you write like that, a certain amount of editing is required. Otherwise, you're not going to get to the point where you get a good grade. So either you organize beforehand and say, this is my topic, this is my argument, support, 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 support. Okay, conclude. This is the organization. Now I'm going to write. And we are going to do an essay outline before your essay, so you'll have no choice. But that's basically one approach. Another approach is just to think about the topic, get some ideas in your head, and just write. But I think it'll be a very rare case that you'll write a paragraph and look back and say, oh, there's no mistakes, print, hand it in to me. That's normally not going to work. Editing is a very tedious, annoying, time-consuming process, but it's incredibly embarrassing to hand something in with even one mistake in it. It just gives a bad impression. If it's in print, I hope none of you see the first edition of my textbook for British and American culture, because I thought I went through that book over and over and over again, and there's probably 50 typos, if not more, in those 250 pages. And that's only a typo every 5 pages, but that adds up really quick. And certain typos make you look they say the wrong thing, or it just makes you look like you're not very smart. So you do have to go over your writing and make sure you use the right words, and when you read it back to yourself, it makes sense what you were trying to say. It's hard to just write something, print it, or write something and read it on a screen and then be objective. So, my teachers always used to recommend that you write it and you let it sit for a couple hours at least, maybe until the next day. Then print it or pick it up again and read it to yourself again, as if you're not the same person, You're sort of disconnected. Yesterday, Jeremy wrote differently than today. And so today's Jeremy has to understand what yesterday, I shouldn't be using these expressions, but the person today, the same person has to understand what the person yesterday was thinking. And you'll be surprised. We don't have a class in person, but what I usually do is I have a folder of all my papers that I ever wrote in university, because my mother recommended I never throw them out. So I have all my good grades and bad grades in my first year and my fourth year and my master's stuff all stuck into a folder. It's in my office in Chungnam. And when I just pull a random one out and I read it, I'm like, I think various things. Like, oh, that's a really good sentence. Like, oh, that's an interesting argument. And like, wow, that guy, it sounds like he can write pretty well. Like, oh, that's a big mistake. I don't know what he was thinking then. But it's the writing's like 18 years old. So it literally, I know it's me, but it feels like it's a stranger. And I can be much more critical. I can point out all the things that I had done wrong and the things that I had done right much easier. So if you create some distance between you and your writing, then you can do it. I always say to students, that's why this page is called peer editing, because the easiest thing to do is finish writing, give it to your friend, classmate, and your classmate can give them theirs to you, and you can do each other a favor and help correct and give some comments. I used to do that all the time with my neighbor who was a philosophy major. He wrote his essays in a different subject. I wrote mine in English Lit. And when we had a paper and we were sick of writing or editing and we couldn't, see our own mistakes, we exchanged them, and that helped us. So since we're all stuck at home, you can certainly email each other, but don't cheat and copy each other. You can do your own editing. It's just kind of hard to catch your own mistakes. There are still a few mistakes in my textbook, even after several years of looking at it. Okay, so it describes the reasons for peer editing here. Main reasons: you need to add more. It's not organized clearly. There's some irrelevant information, or there's something that's hard to understand. And these are the things basically that I'm telling you. You have to work on beyond just the structure itself. Okay, and having another person try to understand it might show you what you're missing. Okay, so it goes on to explain how to peer edit. Page 23 there, I do want you to do this because there is such thing as a weaker or stronger topic sentence, and we've been talking about that already. Adding more detail, being more specific, making a claim, not saying something factual that can't be supported. These are all things that are part of making a good topic sentence. So on page 23, I would like you to do 11. Just type it up as usual. And don't worry about number 12 at the bottom. So all you have to do for homework this time, I shouldn't say all you have to do, but it's not a big deal. I know you're working on your paper and you're going to hand it in tonight or tomorrow. So I would like you to do page 19, which is number 9, from beginning to end. And then I would like you to do page 23, number 11. So it's 9 on page 19 and 20, and 11 on page 23. I'll post that homework assignment on the website so you can see. Other than that, hopefully you're already done your paper, but if you're not, then get to it and send it to me. It'll probably take me a couple weeks to get through them, So we won't be doing another assignment until I get you some feedback on those. But other than that, I think everything's going fine. So we're not going to count this as a holiday, Friday. As I said before, we're going to have some extra days at the end of the semester because we'll already be through all of our makeup days because we didn't stop. All right. As usual, if you have a question, you can send me an email, but hopefully my microphone was working properly and this video lecture will be ready for you tomorrow. And continue to enjoy the weather and be careful. I will talk to you again next week.